Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, March 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. and I'll call to order the Freetown Board of Selectmen meeting. In today's meeting, we will be going to executive session and then coming back into open session. So in a moment, I'm gonna have to ask everyone to leave after I have that motion. So today's meeting will be recorded and will be available on YouTube. So with that, I'm going to entertain a motion that we go into executive session. Oh, sorry. For the following reason, thank you. I knew I was forgetting something. Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Freetown Full-Time Firefighter Association, Public Union Local 272, Lyona, all bargaining units. Because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I do. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Selectman Lopes?
Yes.
Selectman Zager?
Yes.
Selectman Matthews?
Yes. We're now back in open session. Agenda item 2. Yeah, sorry.
Trevor, your mic's off.
Oh, thank you. We're now back in open session. Agenda item 2 is for executive session meeting minutes from 3/4/2024. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve but not release the executive session minutes from 3/4/2024.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And now we have the open session minutes from the same date. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from 3/4/2024 and 3/20/2024.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now agenda item 4. So we have a presentation from SERPED on the 3A MBTA communities requirements. So Victoria, want to kick it off? Or?
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. Hi, Victoria Alfaro, Planning and Land Use Administrator. So we're here to present myself and Rob and Taylor from SERPED, our regional planning agency, are here to present the proposed amendments to what's currently known as the PMUD district, so we can comply with the Section 3A requirements for MBTA communities.
I should go towards you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does this give you Wi-Fi as well?
Also through this.
Oh, Lord. I usually do one of these.
Oh, I guess I still do need it. Thanks for bearing with me, folks. Appreciate it.
I'm going to start off. I'll do this.
Yeah, if you just want to give like a brief introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Victoria. So, thank you for having us. And I will say, we'll go over this in a little bit of detail, but our process has been working with the planning board at planning board meetings to come up with, what we think and what the planning board thinks, and working together to try to decide what is the best method for compliance. So that's really what this presentation is going to outline. We tried to look at that. We started with a range of options, and then, as we've kind of iterated, we've kind of gone into different details of how to approach it and best meet the compliance. And we've always tried to do this in the way that we think follows what we need to do for Freetown's obligations, but in a way, I think the planning board has truly been very thoughtful about approaching this and trying to do it in a way that works as best we can for Freetown. So as this loads up, I think I'll just describe some of those requirements that the Commonwealth has for what a district has to do. And those really are the benchmarks that we're trying to achieve. So those are multifamily housing permitted by right at 15 units per acre, 50 acres in size. And Freetown's capacity, every town's capacity is a little different, is 750 total units. So based on those requirements, I mentioned this, but we proposed a few options to the town, and the planning board looked at them, and there were a range we could get into. Folks want to know what some of those were. Happy to talk about them in detail, but the one we did land on was modifying the planned mixed-use district that Victoria mentioned. There's a few reasons for this. The first is that it's close to the Freetown station site, so that is a requirement for a town that has a station. So whether it was part or all of the district, it was always going to have, some of it was going to have to be close to that station. And the PMUD is close to that. If we look at the spirit of the PMUD, some of you folks may remember when that was. I think it was 2012. It was certainly before I was a planner, to be honest. But the language in there and the intent is about a mixed-use walkable district. And probably if we think about the goal of a 3A district, some of that stuff is similar to what we're thinking about with a 3A district, so that the spirit could carry over into this. And the third one, I think, frankly, is that the district is, I mentioned the 2012, it hasn't really seen a lot of development. You folks in town might know some of the story of that better than me, but when we look at it, if you wanted to meet the intent of a mixed use district and see mixed use development, probably to be appealing to developers, you might need to modify that district anyway. So that was a consideration, is that, do you leave a district there that's not really living up to what it was intended to do, in the sense that it hasn't seen any mixed use development yet? Or do we try to, align this goal that what the town has to do now with that? So those are kind of the big three things we were thinking about. And okay, we can get the map. So
We made it.
this shows the PMUD, which is hatched in this sort of orange color. That is the PMUD, which is now the Plant Development District. So we didn't change the footprint of that. We kept it exactly the same. And that purple dot there is what we believe to be the future Freetown Station. So you can see just above it is the Stop and Shop Distribution Center. It's bisected by South Main Street there. That kind of runs through it. So that's just generally the location. And so that's just really a broad overview of this. I'm going to hand it off to Taylor, my colleague now, who's going to talk a little bit about, some of these modifications we made from the PMUD to the PDD, again, with the spirit of complying with the 3A bylaw. And I should mention too, I think we passed over and I wasn't looking at the screen. This is something we're really trying to do too, is just to be as transparent as we can with what we're actually talking about here. And the thing that Taylor clicked on, there are two documents. One is sort of the final draft bylaw that we've worked through with our planning board sessions. And this one is looks crazy, but it's a red line of what the original PMUD has. And so the track changes are on, so you can see what's actually changed to the planned development district. So hopefully with some of the stuff we talk about today, that'll explain maybe the why of all that red text and slash through and why we made some of those changes. And yeah, so
Any questions on any of that before we keep going?
The only question I have is, can I get a copy of all those track changes?
Yes, of course. They are. So this is publicly available, and the links to the track changes are online. We can also make sure that they're distributed to you folks.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Of course.
I think more information out there is better.
Yeah, of course.
totally.
See if we can get it. We can get it to the website.
Sure. That would be great.
Thank you.
I have some questions, but I'll just wait till after the presentation. You might answer them before I.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm going to walk through some of the key differences again between the PMUD and what we're proposing in the PDD. Like Rob said, we really did do our best, hopefully to you folks and agree, to honor the spirit of what the original PMUD was, intended to do, while again achieving compliance with 3A. So I'll just go through, these are some of kind of like the key highlights. Obviously, there's plenty more changes in the red line that you'll see, but I think these are the main takeaways that we want you folks to be aware of. And so the permitting processes in the original PMUD, all uses were permitted by special permit. In the amended PDD, residential and mixed use are permitted by right, and all other uses remain as special permit. Site plan review required was originally, again, required in the PMUD, and it is still required in the PDD. That is acceptable under Section 3A, and it is required for all uses, just as it was prior. And a big, portion of the PMUD originally was this idea of a village green and having open space integrated into this, the developments. We wanted to honor that and keep it, applicable and useful. So the way we've kind of modified it here is originally in the PMUD, it was required at a minimum of a half acre in size for, on a per project basis. Here, what we've done is a percentage-based requirement of 30%. And that does come, there's all stipulations within the bylaw about conservation restrictions and, conveying if necessary. We worked with our environmental department to kind of tailor that section. So hopefully, again, it lives up to the spirit of, I think, what the original PMUD was trying to do. The allowable residential density, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more about this if we, feel it's necessary. In the original PMUD, it was 5 units per acre, 7 with a density bonus if they were doing age-restricted units. Here, we've brought it up to 16 units per acre for residential and mixed use. And there is a reason that we're opting for 16 rather than 15. I can get more detailed in the math if you want after the presentation, but essentially we have to run a compliance model that the state provides us to make sure that the math, comes out correctly and we're meeting all of those check boxes in 3A. Again, one of those is a gross density of 15 units per acre allowable. And so the Commonwealth also provides us information on what land is excluded from gross density calculations, what land is excluded from unit capacity calculations. And so if we set the gross density in this bylaw at 15, when I put all of that information in the compliance model, it actually comes out to 14.8. So just shy of compliance. So, we brought it up 1 unit to, again, keep it as close to that 15 as possible while getting us to compliance.
I had a little clarification of that
Yes,
too.
of course.
So for my brain, when I think of the gross density, what it means almost is an on the ground density. If we could imagine a hypothetical scenario where someone's entire district, they say, okay, it's 15 units per acre, but the whole district is the park. And we know the park is going to be a park forever. The effective units per acre would be 0 because nobody's going to build a house in that park. So there are just these chunks of land, and we've done a handful of these compliance models. It comes up on every one. So sometimes you have to tinker with certain parameters to get the on the ground units per acre to actually read as 15 of what the Commonwealth considers what could truly be built there potentially.
Yeah. And we have the compliance model, at the end of this presentation. Again, if anyone does have questions, we're happy to pull it up. It is, fairly technical, and sometimes it makes me even go cross-eyed, staring at it and going through it. But again, I'm happy to do that if folks have additional questions at the end. Just getting into the dimensional standards, in the original PMUD, it was based on, a project basis, and there was an FAR of 45%. The allowable uses were defined as percentages of a whole project area, and the dimensional standards weren't necessarily very clear. So what we tried to do in the amended PMUD, the PDD, is make it very clear. It's just a standard, table of dimensional standards. We have a 70,000 square foot minimum lot size, which was decided by the planning board. We have 100-foot minimum frontage with 25 to 50 foot setbacks, 50 feet if it is fronting South Main Street. And we have a 3-story, 35-foot maximum height. We knew that was really important given the kind of limitations of some of the emergency services. And Victoria, you might be able to speak better to that at the end as to the details about that, but we wanted to be cognizant of that. And then there were design standards in the original PMUD. Again, I think a lot of them kind of pertain to that village green, orienting buildings around, an open space, et cetera. We've tried to retain as much of that as possible. And then, we would like to eventually have a kind of complementary project to this down the line where we do a more fleshed out series of design guidelines to inform this bylaw. So that would occur again, after a vote, after we get this in a place where we feel good about it, we could, support you folks with an additional kind of set of more in-depth design guidelines to, again, achieve the spirit of what the PMUD was trying to do. And then,
Can I add to that one too?
yes, of course.
And I think one of the things the planning board is very focused on in our meetings with them is maintaining, site plan review process. So providing as much information as we can to the planning board, because ultimately this is just a zoning change and it's going to occur on a project by project basis if something comes in. So to give the planning board the power to sort of weigh what if they think this meets the spirit of what works for Freetown. So maintaining the control there wherever possible was a big focus for the planning board. So we tried to work that in however we could.
Right. Kind of going off of that again, we did maintain impact statements, so fiscal and transportation impact statements. That was originally required in the PMUD. It is still required in the PDD for all uses. Again, our current understanding is that all of this falls under the purview of site plan review, and it should be fine. If our legal understanding of that changes, we will obviously be attentive to that. But at this time, this is, our understanding is that this is totally fine to include, particularly impact statements. So I just wanted to leave a note on that. And then this is just kind of a note on what residential density is and how it's calculated. It's, all of this is measured in units per acre. So we just have a quick visual here explaining what that looks like. So if you have a 1 acre plot of land and you have 16 units on it, that's 16 units per acre. And then we just want to give some examples of what that can look like at the upper range of 15 units per acre. But we do want to note, all things, there are so many things that can limit density, whether it's the, presence or absence of infrastructure like sewer and water, if they need to have, a package treatment plant or septic, et cetera, wetland boundaries and construction costs. So even if we're showing, 15 units per acre here, it might not look like this, or it might, but we just want to be, again, as transparent as we can, as to show and give folks kind of an example of like, this is what this looks like in other communities. So we have an example here. This is Sudbury. This is a, townhouse style development. You could see it's 3 stories max. And then we have a similar campus style development in Medfield, which is another one at 3 stories max. So again, these are, coming out at the top of 15 units per acre, but I don't know anything about the infrastructure situation or whatnot on there that might have actually limited it. Just again, a note on that. And so let's just kind of bring ourselves back and, give everyone some context, like how did we fund this work? Where did it come from, et cetera? And so we initially applied for a grant from Massachusetts Housing Partnership, otherwise known as MHP. They had a 3ATA program, which was super helpful for us. And we've, utilized it for a number of communities in our region, Freetown being one of them. So we received a $20,000 grant from them initially for this work, which funded us through the end of the last calendar year. And then we applied for a One Stop for Growth grant, which we did receive to help all of our rural communities who are subject to 3A comply. So all of this work is being done at no cost to the town. And then again, a quick overview, what planning was done to get to this point. Last year in May, we kicked off this project, again, through the MHP grant. And, pretty much through the early summer to the fall, we were working on, what options we had for the town. How did we want to consider compliance? And I've linked all of these green highlighted sections in this presentation are links. And so you can click on these and see the original presentation we gave, we handed off to Victoria to give to the planning board initially on, how do we want to cite our district? What should we consider? So you can scroll through these all of the time. It should be available. And then, once we kind of decided that the PMUD was the direction we wanted to go in amending it, we met with the planning board in November. And again, the presentation that we gave at that meeting is here. You can click on it. This one goes into a little bit more depth about, what we knew we had to change in the PMUD, et cetera. And then again, like we said, the MHP grant wrapped up in December. We received our new grant funding from the One Stop program. We met with the planning board again on January 16th to discuss the first draft. This is a link to the first draft. Again, this is a red line version, so you'll be able to see kind of, again, as being as transparent as possible, this was the process, et cetera. So, not everything will be the same from red line to red line, but that's because we're incorporating edits as we meet with the board. And so then again, we met in February via Zoom with the planning board to discuss the second draft. And then we met, we finalized, I think Victoria brought a couple more small iterations of like minor changes to the board. And then we finalized, our proposed district in March this month. And we did submit it to EOHLC, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, for pre-adoption review. And so this is kind of the last thing. Obviously, public meetings for anyone who might be interested in learning more about this. We have this one today. And then we will be having a public hearing with the planning board next Tuesday, April 2nd. And we will update this if we have any future meetings. And so I will pause here because then we're just going to get into a little bit again, if you feel this is necessary, to reiterate the, what is the MBTA Communities Act.
Could you pull up that map?
Yes.
The original with the original PMUD.
Sure.
My thoughts exactly.
I'm just trying to do some math.
Sure.
I think we're all right. So if I'm doing my math correctly, right? So within that circle, we're saying there's going to be 47 acres of potential buildable, right? That'd be the criteria, right? If there's, I'm taking that, I'm saying there's 750 total units is what our requirement is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's 16 acres or 16 units per acre, right? So we need 47 within that circle, 47 acres of buildable, of like reasonable buildable property, right? Now my question is like Stop and Shop obviously being a big chunk of that, right? If they're in the if they qualify, even though right now it's Stop and Shop,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we just change that zoning, unlikely so that's not going to be Stop and Shop anymore, but potentially that will meet the qualifications for us to be in compliance. Or is that excluded from, is that excluded because it's already being used for Stop and Shop?
Because, and I'm sorry, Trevor, I don't want to cut you off, because one of the things that you had said was something about parks, right? So that if a park was in that zone, this was going to be one of my questions, so that's why I'm going to ask. So you have park in there, then that excludes from that piece. But if there's an existing business within that piece, does that exclude
No.
from that piece? So that's actually a good thing.
Yes.
As far
That's
as
what I'm saying.
the
Yeah.
impact. So
So this is
Cars in there, and so half the park would be gone. And within that circle, if they got that piece.
no, but the park, yeah. So the park
Would be the green space, right?
you would have to almost pull from that, right? You would have to put it somewhere else.
Deduct that.
Deduct it from it, yeah.
So this might not be a great visual representation, but I can try to speak to it a bit. This is the half-mile buffer that you also see on this map right here. And, unfortunately, I don't have the PMUD PDD boundary on here, but anything in yellow, this kind of yellow color right here that you're seeing, is what's excluded from unit capacity. So you can see, Stop and Shop is up here, and, pretty much none of it is excluded. These dark blue spots are like wetlands and areas that are excluded from gross density calculations. But again, most of the area that the PMUD falls in, which is predominantly on this side of the road, is included. And there are some excluded parcels that are close to the MBTA community, or the MBTA station, I should say. So this section right here, some of this down here, which is in the PMUD, is excluded land. But that's because it's state owned, by the highway department. So, if it's state owned, if it's a right of way, if it has a permanent conservation restriction, those are the types of things that, the Commonwealth has identified in this orangey yellow layer here as excluded land. But an existing business or, a commercial use would not be excluded.
Already expanded the circle to factor in the excluded space.
Yeah. So,
At the 16 in a way, because to speak in sort of like simplified terms, when I say park, we would say probably like a piece of land protected in perpetuity, that there's no realistic way that could ever not be a park, because you would
But like Stop and Shop, for example,
not.
like right now it's Stop and Shop, but hypothetically
It
in the
could
future
change.
they could sell it to a real estate developer, and it
right.
could
It could.
Yeah.
and that would be fine.
And so if I could probably try to interpret maybe where some of this questioning is going, is if we get a little technical here, but not all of Freetown's land would have to be within that circle we're showing there, just a portion of it. Just what is it?
Where would it go then?
It's 40%.
40%.
40%. Then where would it go?
okay, that's important.
So then you could step outside with the other percentage, because that was some of the scenarios we talked about early on. If we go back
Having
to that,
like a 2 sub-district style
one
zoning,
sub-district
which
be on the other side of
we
town.
didn't opt
or
to do.
We felt it was simple to do it this way, and the planning board did too. But if you wanted to jump outside the circle for a portion of it,
But this is
wouldn't be against the
100% of it. We're thinking this is 100% of the requirement.
this
Yes.
would meet the requirements.
I don't
This would
see
exceed
where
them.
you're putting 750 units in that area.
Perfect.
I just don't see it.
Perfect.
I guess the thing is, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, where?
If legally it says
Well, legally, they can say whatever they want legally, but whose property owns what, right? Like, where's it
So-
going?
I know there's a couple things. I know the Copart parcel is within there. We've included the portion of the Copart parcel. It actually intersects the PMUD, so we had to subset it to include the 40 acres that falls within that. Going back to what I think the nature of MBTA Communities Act and 3A is, it is not going to fall on the behalf of the town to produce 750 units once you pass this bylaw. The idea is that, and again, the way we've done the math using the GIS layers that the Commonwealth has provided, most of the PMUD is not excluded. So they're viewing it as potentially developable down the line, whether again, it's, a redevelopment or a new development, et cetera. That potential is there in the eyes of the Commonwealth. And all that matters is that this zoning district has the capacity to support that when we put those numbers into the compliance model. It does not matter if, you produce 750 units in the next 10 years. No one will be tracking production. The intent is, again, it's a capacity building exercise, so to speak.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just quick. So, and I've seen this in zoning laws before where if, single owner owns 2 pieces of property that have different zoning use, so say one's commercial and one's residential, it can happen. And we have this issue with, when our properties are being combined, right? I just know this in a lawsuit recently. So pretty much what can happen is they can select to use whatever the most like profitable or advantageous uses, right? So what I'm thinking here is like if Stop and Shop, you know, say a third of it is within the circle, would they be able to say, well, it's one piece of property, the
So
entire property can fall under the new PDD?
I just want to make a note too. This circle is the half-mile buffer from the MBTA community station.
The yellow part is, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the fact that the Stop and Shop distribution center falls into this doesn't mean necessarily that it will be. I actually don't know. I'm pulling up the GIS right now to see if my computer will allow me to run it. But I can actually hopefully show you folks where the parcel line of the Stop and Shop distribution center ends, because Victoria, you might be able to speak better to this. I'm not sure. My understanding is that does any portion of the Stop and Shop property fall within the PMUD right now?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't believe
Right.
so.
Okay.
But even so, Copart though,
Copart does.
huge parcel of land. And what I'm thinking, right, is like if the way the law is interpreted is that if a portion of it touches this zone, then they can utilize that entire property to be that zone. They can build it, you know, enormous amount of 15 or 16 units per acre for that entire piece of property would be a huge development.
So I don't think the way we understand it to be, and again, Victoria, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it would be the portion of the Copart parcel that falls within the PIMA, but not the additional back portion.
Yeah, so it's like a hard drawn line, so to speak, into what the two pieces would almost have to break apart. Well, that's good, because I think
I'd like to get some assurances on that.
If it's a preference to take it out, I can't see any reason why we couldn't explore that and run the calculations.
Well, so
But I think having it in there
Yeah.
will probably make sense.
Okay.
I can,
Because I think it's going to have the least amount of impact, because they're in business to make money, not to sell property.
Mhm.
So I don't think they're going to try and say, oh, geez, we got this property now. It's in this district. Let's sell it off to them. But he brings up a valid point. They have, 40 acres or whatever over there, more than that, and 1 acre falls into it. And now all of a sudden we have X amount of units that can get added to. So it's you do want that reassurance. And there's a lot of big parcels still within town that are still owned, especially in that area too.
If there's a preference in any way when we explore this to sort of change the footprint, I mean, I don't see any part of this that we couldn't explore that with you guys, if that's an outcome.
I appreciate it. I mean, I do want to rely somewhat on the planning board as well, right?
Yep.
That's what they do. So
I can speak to at least the math portion. If we removed the 40 acres of the Copart parcel completely, it would bring you folks under the unit capacity requirement. Because I've looked at, I think it contributes about 600 and some odd units in the compliance model. Again, this is all hypothetical. The compliance model makes a lot of assumptions that, frankly, probably overestimate a bit, what we could see on the ground.
Buildable land and that.
But the Copart parcel is a substantial portion of the district and achieving that unit capacity requirement. But if you folks are concerned about the split zoning aspect of it, I mean, there can always be, we can try and write some language in there that unless there's language elsewhere in your zoning, which I have combed through, Victoria, again, you might know better. I don't think I've seen any explicit language on split zoned parcels or parcels that fall within an overlay district, but we can always do our best to make that very clear that it's the land within the boundaries of the overlay.
What I've heard is a lot of our zoning, unfortunately, kind of goes out the window as it relates to this, right? We don't have as much of a say as we normally do as if something on the other side of town is happening, right? So I would really feel comfortable to have something in writing somewhere, and approved by the right people to prove that, yes, this parcel is in here, but only the section that's within that district is valid.
Right. I can try and see the language we used in the beginning, because I do remember this coming up. And again, this is why we didn't model the parcel at the full, I know it's much larger than 40 acres. It's why we specifically subset it to, again, make an accurate representation of just including that portion within the overlay. And I know, here in the applicability section, PDD shall be designated as an overlay district, applied to the land within the PDD. And again, we can make this more specific if there is not any other provisions on split zoned, again, or split zone by an overlay in there.
Yeah, I just feel comfortable having it in this
Yeah, no,
away from our actual zoning.
Yeah.
Like,
And we understand that split zone lots are problematic in every context in every town. So it's
Yeah.
point totally acknowledged. Yeah.
I had a question. This zoning change is the original PMUD. It's not expanding it.
It is not.
So the original zoning, didn't it follow property lines?
I think everything except the Copart parcel followed property lines, if I understand correctly. That was the only one that we had to subset.
Okay.
And we've generally, I would say the preference on the part of the town and the Commonwealth is to rectify split zoning if we're
Yeah.
creating a district or modifying a district or whatever. So, it's a preferred outcome for everybody if there's a way to reconcile it.
Or make it very clear.
Nobody really likes the ambiguity that
Yeah.
split parcels represent.
Yeah.
See that being problematic.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So 750 units. Can you break that down for me? What does that look like?
In terms of
What
the
each one is? Affordable housing, senior housing,
So-
family housing, you name it. Break it down for me so I can kind of.
I can do
get
my
those numbers.
best. Again, this is all a hypothetical. It
Sure.
really is on a development by development basis. I can tell you what Section 3A allows us to not, there's certain things, certain restrictions we cannot impose in a bylaw that is intended to be Section 3A compliant. And that is age restrictions. We cannot limit the number of bedrooms within a development. We cannot limit the size of the units. And, anything that kind of, again, would limit that development, because the big thing that this bylaw, I think, is aiming to achieve, in my understanding of the way that the Commonwealth has marketed it, is it's meant to be, a market rate family, appropriate for families with
I'll
children.
get to
is
that in a
big
second.
thing.
So
Sure.
my question is, out of the 750, like for instance, right now on Freetown Street in Lakeville, they broke it down for us, right? 50 this, 50 that. What are we looking at for here? Like rough numbers. I'm not holding your feet to the fire. I'm just trying to figure out. I have a bylaw question in a second, so we'll get to that. Out of 750, how many are for seniors?
Well, I think what we're saying is that we just create the zoning that is all by right multifamily with no specifications. So we couldn't really
Give you an estimate.
we don't know what the developer
it's
would
a
do.
project.
They would
Okay.
decide.
Well,
how to do it.
theoretically, the developer could come in my eyes, the developer is not going to want to come in and put an age restriction on something. They're going to want to leave it open.
They only do
because,
that when they have to.
yeah,
Oh, right.
because they're not going to come. You understand what I'm saying,
I
right?
do,
So
yes.
750 units. We can say some of them will be age restricted. No developer in their right mind is going to restrict an age as to who can buy it. They want to sell that unit.
Right.
So they're not gonna put age restriction.
Right.
I think they say that's out the
And
window.
Sure.
I think what Rob was alluding to is we in this bylaw, we cannot require an age restriction
We
under
can't-
3A.
It's by design.
We understand
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So my follow-on question was, what I'm trying to get to is, we hear a lot about affordability and everything else, right? Obviously, I want more for my seniors because that's really the targeted area and some families, right? That's if I were to have a choice, I'd have more of that because our seniors need a place to live.
Right.
What's a target home? What's the average cost for a home? One of these apartments, condos, whatever we want to call it. 400,000 or 500,000?
I think it matters
That's
if
a
a developer comes in and builds like super high end
Oh,
stuff,
sure.
right? It's all like this is just really it's a very broad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It would be
On the
hard
pictures
to-
you presented us, right, with the family park and everything else, what's the average of those units right there?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, to be honest. I mean, I know the way the market rate rental and affordability, or excuse me, the affordability is set by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the federal level. And so that's based on your area median income. And there would be very specific numbers that would be set for affordability based on the number of bedrooms in a unit, the area median income, or again, if it was an ownership unit, that's also, again, regulated by HUD. So to add some complexity to that, we proposed having an inclusionary component, which would make up to 10% of the units in development affordable, so at those deed restricted rates. But at the time, I don't think the planning board wanted to proceed with adding that into the bylaw.
Sure. So I did some homework before this meeting, and I looked at Zillow and Realtor.com and everything else, trying to get a good idea of what things cost. So looking at these communities that have a rail, you're looking at houses anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. Not really affordable, right? Especially when it's a condo or an apartment. So let's take that out the window, right? The biggest issue I see here in Freetown is, quite frankly, this isn't a popular idea. All right. The fact of the matter is, we have to put up the town vote at some point.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know if we can all say 100% sure this is going to pass. Right. And I know that comes with the pros and cons of that. Right. The state has their own legal
Right.
I know AG Campbell has come out with some strong lettering saying they're going to sue us and take us to court. That might be the case. I don't know. I can't speak for the residents. That's going to be up to them.
Right.
So, I think at 750 units, I'm looking at over 1,000 people potentially, right? Where are you going to put them? Where's the sewer and water coming from?
So again, I'm gonna scroll down because I think, and again, I'm gonna let Victoria speak to, I guess, some of while I'm kind of scrolling down here. This is the section we were going to get into is what is the MBTA Communities Act and what does it require and what does it not? And so again, just to be very clear, MBTA communities will not require the town to put forth new infrastructure. You will not have to seek a sewer extension. You won't have to seek, any sort of new infrastructure to support housing. The idea is that, it's a private market tool where the developer can come in and do the math and decide whether or not it's profitable for them to have a package treatment or to, try and plug into a sewer line that might be nearby, et cetera. So, we could do our best to speak to what that could look like, but honestly, it's kind of beyond, I guess, my understanding of expertise.
But can you understand our concern?
Of course.
Here we are. We got handed a MBTA station.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, nobody wanted it.
Right.
Right. Let's just be honest.
Right.
Right. Now we have the 750 unit requirement that, again, not many people are on board with.
Right.
A lot of resources are going to be taken away from this. You're essentially telling Freetown, hey, you're going to be a suburb of Fall River. And that's essentially what's happening. So you're putting it right there. Let's just be honest. So you have a Sona Village that's been here hundreds of years, right? We don't have sewer and water. We're on wells. We have another facility coming up to 700,000 square feet. They're going to be sucking a lot of water out. So there are concerns.
Totally.
So you say we don't have to connect to sewer and water, but we're planning. Unfortunately, this is going to make Freetown grow, right? So we have to be able to connect the sewer and water up and down the street. So how does that connect with us? How will the state work with the town? Because right now we're working at your level, but as far as infrastructure wise, how is the state helping us?
Sure.
Right now, you're throwing more problems at us at the moment.
Sure.
I think there is sewer on this.
I just wanted to see how
where that
it's.
circle is because it goes down to Stop and Shop, so there actually is sewer
Yeah.
there, which makes sense.
Yeah, we're trying to tie into that
We're trying to
ourselves.
extend it out further.
But
So-
like for instance, Fall River got $450 million to take down all their wonderful apartments to turn into green space, right? Freetown hasn't gotten a cent yet. Maybe we will. I'll pray to the grant gods that we get some money like
Right.
that, right? Would there be any incentives, grants coming our way to help with sewer and water?
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
So I can speak on behalf of how SERPED has services to help with this, and then also how we tie into the Commonwealth services that are provided for this. And Rob, I'll let you speak to this because I think you'll have some thoughts as well. We can explore, there's a new program that is coming out, I think, in response to MBTA communities, which is the Housing Works Infrastructure Program. It's through the Community One Stop for Growth program, which is the same program we use to receive funding to provide technical assistance to you folks for 3A. So that will be specifically intended to support infrastructure improvements related to housing. So if you folks did decide, despite, again, just noting it is not required, but if you felt it was something you folks wanted to pursue and that it would be beneficial, there are grants like that as well as MassWorks, which, both are aimed at infrastructure improvements, particularly sewer and water. And that could be, Rob, I think will speak a little bit more clearly about this, but that can be hard infrastructure. It can also be like the studies and whatnot, et cetera. Correct?
Yeah, it's my understanding as well. And to be clear and to acknowledge your concern completely, we would be here to help you write those grants of assistance. It's not a promise that you'll get. I understand that that's a concern you have.
Well, I know you can't promise anything. My concern is this, right? We have, we'll take Main Street, right? Where juniors are and everything else, right? They're all using septic, essentially, right? There's no sewer, right? So for those businesses to grow and absorb the people coming into our town, right? You take the marijuana place, American, they're going up to 400 or 500 employees. Then you take 750 units plus all their families. There really isn't the infrastructure in the SONIT to take all these extra people in, let alone the bridge that's halfway collapsed. Let's face that, right? You guys can help with that. Let's throw that out there as well, right? What incentives do these individuals that are now Freetonians, right? Freetown or Sona residents, do they have to stay in Freetown versus going to Fall River where they're building all this
Right.
jazzercise area, green area. What do we do for Freetown? Because right now it seems like Freetown's getting the shaft. Let's be honest.
Right.
We have not just one line, two lines: East Freetown, secondary and primary.
Mhm.
We have an MBTA station, but yet we're getting people.
Mhm.
Yeah, we get some tax revenue for the building, not really for the land.
Mhm.
But what else? Like what can I tell my residents that are sitting here today, listening at home,
Right.
that this is a good idea? Like
Right.
at the end of the day, we have to vote on this.
Right.
Right now, it sounds great. It sounds we're solving a problem of housing, and I truly believe that every family
Mhm.
deserves a place to live. I do. But 750 units, that's a little much to take in for a small town.
Yeah. I
That's just the honest truth.
can't. So I think there's a couple things. I had my thought and I'm losing it. No.
I'm passionate about this, but
No. I appreciate that for sure. I do remember it's coming back to me now. For your critique is valid, and I think it's one of the most common critiques we hear, especially in rural communities. And again, a large portion of the region we serve as Serped is rural, so we're kind of trying to thread the needle on this as to what that looks like for our rural communities. But I think again, the critique is valid. I, as Serped and not the Commonwealth, can't speak to again why this bylaw is written, or excuse me, this law is written as kind of, all stick and no carrot. I think that's what I think a lot of people refer to it as. So I can only speak to, again, what this could look like for you folks. And again, just to reiterate too, 750 units is the requirement, but like I said, that could be limited by so many different things. It's really difficult for us to project what that could look like. But again, I understand what you're saying.
could it go higher? Could it go above 750 units?
So to be frank, the way the math works out,
I don't know, so that's kind of scary.
this is a 118 acre district, and I believe about 90 something of it was included in the compliance modeling due to the fact that we removed some excluded land. The total estimated unit capacity from the compliance model was about 1,300 units. However, this makes some assumptions about it. All it does, because again, this is a model that's being calculated in Excel. It's not a spatial model. It can't do complex geometric things and, make an accurate site plan or prediction. It takes the open space requirement that's removed. It makes some assumptions about parking based on your bylaw and removes that space. And then all it does is create a hypothetical building footprint and extrude it up into space. And it's assumed that every unit is only 1,000 square feet, which is just not realistic in this market, what developers are doing. You're not really seeing, 1,000 square foot studio spaces, which is why I was saying earlier that this number seems really high. But in reality, it might be vastly limited by other things, whether that's the size of the unit that the developer opts to build, whether or not the developer, wants to just do septic, in which case they're limited to probably 90 bedrooms under Title V, whether they want to do a package treatment plant and that is profitable to them. And, there's a big kind of gap in project size, but that still can sometimes look like 200, 300 units, but not 750. So this is,
And I think this, honestly, I think this is good news. I think the way I think the planning board and with your direction working together, I think that specific area and reusing that PMUD, based on what's really there, I think if it keeps us in compliance, and I think that it will mitigate the impact on the town, is my opinion on this. And
I feel like and I'm sorry, Trevor, to cut you off. I feel like when they did this, they were really trying to figure out how we could go about it with the least impact on the town, correct?
that seems to be
that's
what
the way
I'm seeing from
I'm
this.
absorbing it. And I'm not saying I'm in favor of it. I'm just saying that it seems like when they went to bat with it, they said, okay, here's the spot we can do it that will theoretically should put the least amount of impact on it.
yeah.
No, I agree with that. I really do. Where they're proposing it, it's not much there, right? It's a lot of land, and I understand that, right? And it's a good idea putting it there, but you got to also understand there's people that have been here some generations, right? And some of them are annoyed.
Yeah.
Some are scared, and some have a lot of questions, and our duty is to give them those answers, right? At least try to provide them,
Right.
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of what ifs,
Yeah.
right? Again, I don't know what's going to happen. It's up to them how they vote.
Right.
So we talked a lot about, you guys talked about a lot of Chapter 3A and everything else. Now, we know as a board, we've been getting a lot of grants, right, from the state, federal, and everything else. Now, we go about and we vote and the vote comes back negative when this is a big no.
Yeah.
How does that impact the grants that we currently have in place with the state?
Right. So what our plan of it, and the reason we're aiming for a spring town meeting at this point, which is again, why we're having our public hearing next Tuesday, why we're speaking to you folks now, why we've been kind of working on this since May of last year. If this does not pass at spring town meeting, we have one more opportunity at fall town meeting to, if we need to amend the district, if we receive feedback, et cetera, whatever the outcome of the vote is, it gives us one more shot. At that point after, it's kind of hard to say. All I can say is that after December 31st, 2024, if there is not a zoning bylaw adopted, that does lead to, you are now out of compliance with the law.
I know, I just saw this in the news recently, so I'm blanking what community it was, but
Milton.
yeah. So they are getting sued.
Correct.
And I want to make sure that's just everyone understands the impact.
And that's where I'm leading. That's what I'm leaning towards.
It's going to be very expensive, and we're getting a lot done with these grants, and not just the grants, but just the administrative nightmare will be to go through that kind of lawsuit and everything else.
Right. And so
get this right and get it through the vote.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what that means for the folks listening and folks here is, we've done a great job, this administration and Debbie and all our folks and yourself, Victoria, have done an amazing job grabbing all these grants for everything around town, right? Saving the taxpayer dollars, right? And what A.G. Campbell has said is if we're not in compliance by December of 2024, that the town essentially will be penalized, which means right now we have an offset, right? We pay 80%, they pay 80%, we pay 20%. By us not being in compliance, the state will come back and say, hey, now you owe 100% of that grant, right? So they're essentially telling us we don't comply. Well, you don't qualify for the other grants that you've already applied for. Some of them are already going to be in the works. So that's something to consider. Full disclosure, right? We're all adults. We have to make the decisions based on the information we have, not the information we want to hear. Right. So those are the things that we have to make sure it gets put out there. People need to understand the pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
Some may love it, some may hate it. That's fine, right? That's their decision to make. My concern is a lot of things. I have a lot of concerns about this. It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
I'd like to, I'm sure some residents are here to talk about this. So does anyone have any questions? And I'm just going to ask people to keep their questions short just because, we only have so much time tonight, so just keep it to a minute or so if possible. Yep. Please state your name for the record.
Ann Pizzaro, Island Road. When I came to another meeting, they said it was 261 units that they were trying to put in Freetown. And we thought that was an awful lot. Where's the 700 number coming from?
So
We thought 261 was way too much.
did you have anything to add first?
Yeah, just real quick.
Yes.
So the meeting you're referring to was the master plan committee meeting from a couple weeks ago. So that 261 number that you're talking about, that was about developable land in other areas. That had nothing to do with 3A. So I think that was about the master plan and a different topic than this. Just wanted to clarify that.
So to go off of that too, and again, there are two concurrent projects occurring here in Freetown right now. One is again the Freetown Master Plan, which is led by my colleagues who are looking at their own analysis on developable space and whatnot. But that again that's not Commonwealth related. It's not related to the MBTA Communities Act. So apologies for the confusion on that. It gets kind of like a little odd and hard to keep track of things when there are multiple projects going on at the same time talking about housing. So I totally get that. 750 comes from the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth determines all of the parameters for each of the communities who are subject to
Who is the Commonwealth?
the state, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
Names.
I could attempt to give you some names. There is a team. You might have seen presentations with Chris Clutchman, for example. She is the director of livable communities at EOHLC. This, initially came out via the Economic Development Bill back in, I think, 2021 under Governor Baker's administration. So it's been a long time developed. I could not give you an exhaustive list of names of people who developed the law, but I can only point you to the fact that it was formerly the Department of Housing and Community Development, now the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Is that helpful?
No.
Yeah.
We'll do our best to get that information on our website so you can get some names.
Sure.
Absolutely.
If I can add one more thing, is I heard a lot of people talking about, well, we have to do septic, we have to do wells. When I built in 1988, I had all kinds of guidelines I had to go by. 100 feet from my well to my septic. If I was to have a bigger house, I had to have a bigger holding tank. So if you're talking all these units, is all that thrown out from what I had to do?
Yeah.
No,
No.
that's all regulated under Title V, which is for septic regulations. That does not change. All of the developments, in this district are still subject to that. And that's why we were talking about septic limitations and the fact that under Title V, 90 bedrooms, I think, is the maximum that you can have on a private septic system before you have to consider a package treatment plant or, other aspects. So that all the environmental regulations still hold regardless of that.
One other thing, they talk about connecting into sewer. I don't know if you listened to Jim Phillips on 1420 on Saturday. And the whole gist of that talk was in New Bedford, he had on as a guest, one of the planning board. And our septic system in New Bedford is way down the south end. And they were saying that there are issues with all of this, and that's why they wanted to push people out of New Bedford into the surrounding communities. So what I'm looking at is if New Bedford is already having issues with their own people, how are they going to take us in?
This would be Fall River.
This will be on the Fall River.
Because it's in Assonet, so we'd be hooking into the Fall River sewer system, which we already are. Stop and Shop is already hooked up into it, which is in Assonet. So we would just be continuing. Really, it's where this most of the land here that could potentially have units on it, they would be able to just pop right into the already existing sewer line.
Right.
Some people in Assonet already have Fall River water.
I do, for example. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this this gets to some of what Mr. Lopes was kind of grappling with. Is there is some unknown about this, and if we stick to the parameters, I would say of what Taylor and I, forgive me for the kind of the sports talk, but like what we can control, like when you're playing your high school basketball team, what we're trying to control here is sort of the bylaw that we write and how it works for Freetown, because that's sort of that's the realm that
within
Taylor
our
and
control.
I live in.
Right.
So that's what we've really tried to do with the planning board and with Victoria. And when we talk about something like the boundary of the district or something, it's well within our capability to continue to revisit that with, of course, we want to honor what the planning board has done, but we will always continue to work and try to produce that best bylaw within those rules that we can.
Right.
Leave it one more.
I think Debbie has
question.
it. Yeah.
Hi,
Give her a microphone. We might want to give you, hold on one second. We might want to give you a microphone so people can hear you.
Yeah.
I was at the meeting a couple weeks ago with the master planning. They did talk about the 750 units and
Yes.
50 units per acre in that meeting. And then I don't remember for sure how they whittled it down to 261. But so are you talking that you're proposing 750 units here and 261 somewhere else within?
No. So I apologize for the confusion that kind of two concurrently occurring, projects might have imposed upon folks. The 261 units is not something affiliated with Rob and I. Again, I think that's like a napkin math calculation that our colleague Philip, I don't want to call it napkin math and undermine it, but more so like, they have come up with their own way of determining it. And this is not a development proposition by any means. I think it's just, our colleagues with the master plan committee exploring development outcomes. But again, it's a thought exercise. That is not a proposal by any means. Just in the same way, this 750 unit capacity requirement, I should really reiterate, is again determined through the compliance guidelines that the Commonwealth promulgated. It's based on land area and population. I'm happy to pull up the calculations within the guidelines to show you how they get to that number, but we are fed those numbers. And again, we're not proposing building 750 units. We're just saying this is a zoning district that has a capacity for 750 units with a lot of assumptions behind it. Again, so
And I think like important, like really what we're talking about here is the state thinks that Massachusetts needs more affordable housing and they want people to use more public transportation.
Right.
Right. Like that's really what's happening here. So, and towns are not going to do that on their own. So they're using a stick rather than a carrot, and they're making us do it. That's what's really going on here. So, and if we don't comply, then we will be sued. So we have to try to comply in a way that mitigates the impact the least, or mitigates the impact the most. Sorry. So that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And I don't think Freetown is alone in that concern. Most of our communities that we're working with on 3A related initiatives want to, for lack of better words, do the bare minimum. And that's totally fine in the eyes of the Commonwealth. It just matters that we, like Rob was saying, we make a bylaw that honors the spirit, for this example of what the PMUD used to be when it was voted, and passed at town meeting in 2012 here, that can do this while again is still what works for you folks. That's ultimately our biggest concern here.
So earlier you talked about impact studies, right? Vehicle impact study. Are you talking about CERDR and GOTRA and everything else? Is that what you're talking about, or the vehicles coming and going from the apartment buildings?
It's more about vehicles coming and going through the apartment buildings. That is going to be regulated under site plan review, which it is now currently for all projects that are applied for. An applicant would have to submit a traffic impact statement, which goes to the vehicles coming and going. It has nothing to do with public transportation.
So staying on public transportation for a quick second, the MBTA comes with, it's not there for free, so folks, so you guys know, we have to pay a yearly assessment to have the train there, right? And we'll also have to pay a yearly assessment for CERDA to come into town as well. Any additional assessments that we may have to splurge on for this type of housing? Is there any financial impact other than fire and police, which I'll get to in a second, but any additional financial impact to our citizens here in Freetown for a 750 unit facility, right? Is there any additional like CERDR or the MBTA charging us assessments per year? Is there anything there?
I'm not aware
that you know of?
I'm not aware of anything.
Yeah.
No.
Good. I like that. Great answer. Thank you. That is good. And as far as fire and police, obviously this is going to be an impact on them, right? For fire emergencies, police emergencies and things like that. How do we go about, is there any incentives from the state coming our way for that? Or is that going to be funded through the taxpayers again? It's just question. I'm sure I know the answer, but
I want to make sure. I feel like
I know
them in the defense. They are assisting us. In
I know.
trying to become be within compliance. Right? Like that's. I think. We want
yes,
to
yes. And if I'm coming off a little strong, I'm sorry. I am just really like I've been waiting to talk to you folks, right?
I totally.
And I respect you guys are here. I love that you guys are here, and I'm happy that people are here and there be people watching. But these are the questions that they're asking themselves. So I'm just I need to ask you. You're here. That's my opportunity to say hello.
None of it's nothing we haven't heard before.
Right.
So we're
Absolutely.
We're also here to have this conversation.
Yeah. We welcome you. Thank you for being here. And if I'm coming off strong, I do apologize. That is not my intent. But at the same time, the questions need to be asked.
Yeah. I mean,
We're comfortable with all of this. It's okay. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think honestly, to your point, again, it's just like, I wish I could give better answers in instances like this. Again, like Rob was saying, we're just working within we view ourselves as Serpent as like the mediators between the Commonwealth and our communities. And so, what we're trying to do here, again, like we said, is like get somewhere in the middle with something that works. So it's as much as I wish I could speak and had the knowledge and expertise to give you like a route number for something, like I can't always do that. But Rob, go ahead. I see you.
And sort of truthfully, like I'm a planner by trade, so I'd probably be disrespectful for me to try to understand what a police officer or a firefighter does every day. What we did try to do with the planning board is there was an emphasis on that 3-story limit.
Yeah.
My understanding is a big portion of that was to not have to expand fire capacity and buy new equipment and things like that. So again, this is in no way a dismissal of the concern you bring up, but that's the part of it that we did try
that
to
we could
address with the
control.
bylaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I have full trust in our planning division and Victoria and everybody else that's involved, and I'm sure they spoke to police and fire. But we got to look at it and make sure the residents know that this is going to be a safe and okay place to go visit it and see and everything else, and that is a concern. And not to mention that we'll have probably more than likely increased staff, which means more taxes.
It is the benefit of, maintaining site plan review is again that these will go through all the same processes that they've been going through. Again, having the fiscal impact statement, having the, transportation impact statements, again, hopefully gives the planning board the knowledge they need to work with, a developer in question who comes and proposes a development under this district. And again, like Rob said, within the parameters that we can control, the 3-story, height limit was something we wanted to be really cognizant of. And, to your point about funding and additional resources, again, I can't give any sort of true estimates or whatnot, but I can only, assure you that us as Serpent, as your RPA, are always happy to hear if you folks have interest in pursuing projects or grant, funding, because we work with Victoria often on getting funding and whatnot. So if there's, an initiative in town that you folks are like, hey, given all of this, there's a new development being proposed now that we passed this bylaw, et cetera, like we want to explore other options, all I can guarantee you is that we can support you in that grant writing effort as, the mediators, so to speak.
Well, we do support that. We do thank you for that.
Sure.
I have a question. Just to be clear, I apologize if this has already been covered. The definition of these units, are they condos? Are they townhouses? Are they apartments?
So yeah.
Are they, I have a condo, can I rent it out to someone?
Yeah. So first of all, you just give your name for the record.
I'm sorry, Ken Hoffman.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure, I want to be crystal clear about this. We just have, they have nothing to do with what kind of buildings are built or what kind of development. We currently have bylaws and zoning laws that are super restrictive and are totally outside of what the state is requiring us to do. So you have no control who builds what or how. We're just allowing potentially in this zone, right, giving the potential opportunity for a developer to be able to have, higher density in some of these areas.
Yeah.
Now, this is important, I think, is that I want everyone to understand this. We could do this, pass this new zone, and literally not one new house can be built. Right. And if no developers see this as an appetizing place to invest, right? Literally that could, and then we're in compliance, we don't get sued, and everyone moves on happy.
That's the case with PMUD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only in places people are not utilizing.
Yeah.
There.
And it's to your point of what we do, what gets built is up to the developer, right? Whether it be single family condos or whatever, that's really the developer to look at it and say, I want to put condos here, or I want to put single family houses.
Right.
And
It just changes the district.
Yeah.
As far as what can be put there and how close they can be put together.
We have a lot right now that's in the PMUD, and it's been sitting there empty for a long time, but no one ever finished it. And so nothing's going to change, right? For there potentially, there's a reason for a bunch of different reasons. It doesn't make economic sense for a developer to invest there. Maybe it still doesn't, right? So I want to make sure I want to make sure we understand that all of a sudden, once we pass this, if we pass this law, there's not going to all of a sudden be
750 units won't crop up tomorrow. Right. This is not a
unrealistic
development proposition by any means.
the end of that is a really interesting point too, because let's just say that development occurs. It would take time to realize the construction of buildings. I don't think usually, I can't promise you, and I don't want to, but usually it's not everybody's trying to build the building in the same neighborhood all at the same time. It's a little bit unprecedented because we are passing all of these bylaws in the next 2 years because of the mandate. But my educated guess, and that's the best I can offer, is that it would take time to realize any kind of potential. You would see maybe one building right away. One example is there are cities that have passed their zoning already. And for example, Taunton, I think, has a building on the books, but there's significantly more capacity even in a larger city like Taunton than is currently being realized. And it may someday, but some of it right now, I think, is like a Target or a Wendy's or something like that. And it stays that way for a while. And some of it may be a different kind of building in the future, but it takes a little time is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of go back to answer your question, it's hard to say exactly what it could look like there. We can just speak to the dimensional standards and that it can't be taller than 3 stories. We define multifamily as 3 units or more. So, it could be row houses, it could be townhouses. We have mixed use by right there as well. So it could be mixed use, on the first floor. And there are uses, stipulated within the bylaw for what types of mixed use we could see. So it is hard to say. And I do think, again, your point of just making it clear, this is not a development proposition. It really is just truly a capacity exercise exercise. And to Rob's point again, like this is happening not just here, but, you know, in 177 of the communities subject to this, we're all working to pass, you know, bylaws around the same time. So it's really difficult to predict like the market and development outcomes as a result of that, given that it's occurring, you know, in half the state essentially at the same time. But I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes.
I think Deb had one thing, and then I think we got to move on just because we
I
have
just
a long
have
agenda tonight.
one point, and we don't really have to deliberate it, but you had said that you passed over the 10% affordability option. My only concern was that if you did the 10% affordability here, then we could preclude future 40Bs, right? If we meet, if we meet that. So that may also reduce the impacts to the town if we do think about incorporating that 10% affordability piece and also help to reach the goal of having some affordability. I mean, I would assume that the planning board looked at that, but I don't know if they realized the impact would be that you could preclude future 40Bs from the town. So you then have some control, right? You no longer will have, because a 40B can be built anywhere on any piece of land in any part of the town until you reach that capacity. So something to maybe think further about, and that's really all I want to say about that.
Yeah, Rob did a great job of like emphasizing that, and I'll let you speak more on that, kind of like, you know.
We did try to highlight that, and we understand that everyone has sort of a different perspective on this. There's, you know, there's a lot that we're grappling with here, but we did have that discussion, and I try not to, you know, we try to present information and not go too strongly with what I think Freetown should do. You know, we try to, but my professional opinion, it's a good thing to consider.
It can always be amended and added later, possibly.
It can.
If it's not something that this bite at the apple works, but something to just think about.
And to have 0% and to realize capacity is actually a net negative in terms of you would lose ground on your SHI.
Yeah, when it's reevaluated in 2030, and if you have, you know, a bunch of new market rate units and the 10%,
isn't it?
For 40B,
yes.
10% is the maximum you can do for a 3A compliance, and that's a break even for the units being produced. To you know, you don't lose ground on your SHI.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
just something to think about.
All right. Anybody else?
Carlos, I just want to say, well, should I grab my question?
Yep, please.
Some around.
Hi, can you hear me? Am I on?
Green's good.
My name is Kayla Churchill, Sonnet, Mass. Chuck Carlos, I just want to say you did an amazing job representing us tonight with these questions. Every question that popped up to my mind, you already were asking it. Even the last question about the police and fire, that's my concern is not only police and fire, but our schools. I don't think they can handle this much. If you do 750 times 4 people roughly, that's like 3,000 new residents. That's going to be a lot on our police, fire, and our school. And is the state going to help us with any of that?
So the one, at least the data point I can speak to is that I do know that regionally, and you might know better from the master plan process, that school enrollment is declining. So there is, you know, that's something to consider, is that the enrollment is declining. Obviously that's part of the ebb and flow. In terms of state incentives, do you have any in mind off the top of your head related to, none that I can think of specifically related to school age children, but Victoria, I don't know if you had any additional things you want to.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, like we had mentioned earlier, the existing district that allowed for a higher density, nothing has even been built in the 10 plus years it's been there, you know, so I don't think, you know, obviously we can't really predict the future, but at the rate that has been utilized, I don't think there's going to be this quick and fast impact to the school system.
Yeah.
Stop and Shop and Coparts would have to sell their property to developers. Right? Not to mention a bunch of private homes that are currently, you know, just regular homes on Main Street would also have to sell to developers. All of them at once, and then have to go through it. Like it's just not a realistic kind of situation. And we don't care about realistic. We care about, you know, it like legally could happen, right? Like that's the bar we're trying to set here. So
I think at the end of the day, that's like the worst, not the worst case. Hate to say worst case, but the highest rate possibility. We're
Biggest
looking at
impact.
750,
Right.
right? The biggest one that's going to impact our communities, potentially looking at 750 units, right? Like to Kayla's point, and like I said earlier, like a lot of residents have reached out to us with these questions, and it's our duty to make sure we put them out there,
For sure.
right? And like to Trevor's point, there's a lot of what ifs, right? Copart being the biggest and Stop and Shop and all the private owners. Is that an incentive for them? We don't know, but we want to make sure that, if these are the cards that we're dealt, we have to make sure we have a pretty good hand ourselves, right? We want to make sure that the residents of our town get as much for this as the new residents are getting as far as brand new housing, right? We want to make sure our infrastructure is there. They're using our shops, our stores, and we can grow with them, right? And still maintain a small community.
Right.
So it's very important to us that we understand exactly what you're saying and doing. So my suggestion is when you have your public meeting next week, all right? Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Common language, common terms, throwing numbers out on 3A and kind of jumping around the answer. Just be as transparent as possible and answer them and be patient. A lot of them are concerned as well, right? We have a great community, but they also have a lot of questions.
Of course.
We hope to be there, but we don't know what the future brings, right? Who knows? But just do your best for us to answer them as plain language as possible so that people understand what you're trying to say and do and move on how we're moving forward.
For sure.
Right? Try to alleviate some of that angst that people have when they hear about 750 unit, 4,000 people potentially coming to our town.
Right.
It gives me angst.
Right. Yeah, we will be there as long as we need to be to answer as many questions as we can. We intend to be there on the 2nd. If, we need to be there again on a following date, we will be there. We're also planning on making an informational video for town meeting if we get there for spring and everything works out, which I believe is the plan now. And that will also, for folks who can't show up to our public meetings or, don't for any reason, there will be, hopefully something there to play that gives a little bit more information, some context, et cetera. But yeah, my email is in this presentation. This presentation will be publicly available if it isn't already. I think it will be on the website. You can feel free to reach out to me if any of you have questions that haven't, been able to be addressed here now. We would welcome folks to come again next Tuesday to be with us again, where, we'll have this information here and, we can spend as much or as little time as necessary answering everyone's questions to hopefully the best of our ability. The things we can't answer, right?
Well, you've done a great job, and we do appreciate you coming here, Victoria, as well. As you can see, we have questions, concerns, and a lot of love for our town. I want to make sure we're doing the right thing for it.
Of course.
So,
All right. Thank you, folks, very much. Appreciate
Of course.
it.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have another presentation. So, presentation of the potential program survey to residents from the community program director.
The last 10 minutes was like completely different than the beginning. I thought they were like.
Did you get a copy?
I did. I thought I did. I can't find it.
You need to project on
It seemed like they were like demons.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for starting.
Yeah, let's just
I've seen it, so I
Yeah,
don't
we
have
want
any
that one
issues
for
with
sure.
All right.
Pretty fitting. She had a devil on a warlock.
Just be on that side.
We're gonna be like, we're in. Thank you. Sure.
I lost my copy.
It's like someone looked at it. I thought it was good.
Outdoor movie night.
We should do it.
Comic night.
There was remember that kid that came they wanted to do something that would like to have that.
All right. We're ready to go? All right, Luann's still here with some papers out by that.
problem.
A pet adoption event.
Hi.
We keep missing each other.
I know.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
Nice to finally meet you.
Likewise. We'll say hello afterwards.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kylie Botello. I'm the new Community Program Director. So I made a simple survey at the request of Deb. It's just to gauge community interest. It's a very simple survey. It starts by asking, your age, your gender, and your town of residence, just to get an idea. And then I listed out a couple of events and programs that I thought would be fun, that maybe people in the town would be interested in participating in. I ranked it from not interested to very interested, just to gauge. Nothing's worse than spending a bunch of money on a program that no one wants to attend. So that's why this is created. And, feel free to look at the programs I have listed. And if you have, any ideas that you would like me to put on there or any programs that you would like to see from me, feel free to let me know. But again, it's a very simple survey. It doesn't take long at all, maybe 5 minutes, probably less. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Can we add a selectmen's night, comedy night?
Yeah, sure. Let me write that down.
Yeah.
One man show.
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Any other ideas?
Yeah, I got a ton of them.
Yeah.
Well, years ago, so many of you may know Barry French, right? Longtime resident, great with photos on his social media. So one of the things, and I'm also on the Fireworks and Parade Committee, so full disclosure. And one of the things that Barry has been putting out there is like the old log roll and during the fireworks pie eating contest. Like I'll challenge both of you selectmen to a pie eating contest if it gets people out there. All right, and I aim to win that contest.
Yeah.
But those are the things I want the community to get together more often, right? And not just be community members, but be neighbors once again, right? When our town was small, I saw a lot of history, a lot of great photos. And now that we've kind of spread out a little bit, I kind of want to bring everybody back in. And that's really the vision that we have for your position. And for full disclosure, you folks, the town voted this position in to kind of get all these different things from Parks and Rec, the seniors together to make sure that we're utilizing every square inch of our town and facilities, from state forest, boat ramp to I'm sure I know you've been running around talking to different committees, so you've been killing it. So great job on that.
Thank you.
But definitely the pie eating contest.
Sure.
I think I could take Jared out.
I was even thinking of a chili competition or something. I thought that would be kind of fun.
Yep.
We just got to talk to the Board of Health on that.
I think it's the first great step. And, from this, just, I think we'll just get some momentum going. And, if there's something that really stands out, we can move forward with it, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also would like to plug that we're doing an Earth Day event
Yes.
on April 20th. If anyone's interested in volunteering, all the information is on the Freetown MA website, and there's a registration link on Google Forms. So I hope to see you guys there. I'm also trying to help out the Open Space Committee on a Family Fun Day event. I believe that's in May. I haven't got all the details. But I'm trying to get involved in many programs as possible and try to create my own. I would love to do a summer concert series. That's something that I've been looking into. But I would love to get everyone's input and see what you guys are really interested in. So
I think you're doing a great job. Thanks, Kylie.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is that's okay for her to just
Yeah. So should we vote on that?
Just to make sure that
Yeah, because I
she's
think
okay
at the
to-
end it gives, so she's saying, hey, I want to, ask other people their input as well. And that's on here to
Yeah.
share their ideas, right? So it kind of will allow people to give their ideas of if they want to have a pie eating contest
Yeah.
or a
So-
comedy
Yeah, I
night.
just want to make sure that it's okay for her to disseminate
I'll
that.
just make a vote. Yes, I'll entertain a motion for the community program director to distribute the survey as shown, with the addition of a pie eating contest.
I love it. Sure thing.
Any flavor you want, Trevor. Any flavor you want.
Do I have a motion?
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That's okay for
Now you're going to have to
I'm
do
in.
it.
I'll grow the beard out and everything. Let's do it.
Okay.
Challenge goes out
So
to the whole
now
town.
we have the 4th of July parade route.
Yes. Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, as you know, over the years, we've used KRR for staging, and a lot of our volunteers are veterans and some seniors, and it's tough walking, right? And from KRR down the street, down Main Street, although it's only about 1.5 miles, it's still taxing on them. So last year we tried a hybrid between KRR and Ridge Hill Road. Right. I think it was successful. Some of the walkers were Ridge Hill Road, and then most of the vehicles were staged at KRR. Well, that presents issues, as Chief will tell you in a second. And one of those issues are, one, we need a bypass agreement through Stop and Shop. Right. Easy enough. That's just an email and they come in and remove some barriers. But the biggest one is, and this is what Chief is going to jump into, is the blocking of the highway by his officers. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this time to speak about the parade and some of the challenges that we've dealt with over the years. And long time standing, the route has bypassed South Main Street and Route 24, and having our officers in place to deal with the traffic flow by closing down the ramps has been problematic. In the past, the traffic has built up and towards the highway main traffic area, and potentially could have caused a more serious problem. Potentially, we should have been spending more time working with the state and applying for a permit to actually shut down those ramps. But over the years, we've been lucky and fortunate that the state hasn't been more involved in changing our practices. But here today, that this was suggested that we shorten the parade route to assist us and avoid the ramp closures. And mainly just redirecting the traffic for that short period of time in a separate direction, so it wouldn't affect the parade and not impact the ramps of the highway. And looking at the potential staging area of Ridge Hill Road and Campanelli Drive, and even the property belonging to the MBTA, would certainly benefit the town as a whole and the whole parade and fireworks committee to safely stage and deploy the parade people and the floats and everything in a safe manner to the South Main Street. And obviously, it would definitely benefit the senior veterans who are getting up there in age and walking that shorter distance for that parade route from Ridge Hill Road all the way to Hathaway Park.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I was actually stuck in off ramp last year. So I was late on the way home and I was stuck in there for a while.
So there's pros and cons to it, right? So leaving KRR, you do have folks from Stony Bay Shores, so your neighborhood. So that's something to consider as well, right? So,
yeah, but I think that the safety concern about like blocking the highway there, I mean, we are lucky that nothing's
right,
because if it backs up onto 24, and I think we know how crazy 24 is. Right, that's a problem.
Right, and if you could, legalese wise, we're breaking the law by blocking a state highway locally, right?
Right. There is a permit process through District 5, and what you're supposed to do is apply for a permit. They will assess it for the needs. Then they would tell the town the resources that would be required to shut down those ramps. And usually what that means is just like any other type of traffic construction area. There are barrel cones, and then you have to pay for a state trooper detail rate to be up there to shut off those ramps. And the impact and burden of that expense would come to the town. Yes, we have avoided it over the years. We've been very lucky, and no one's come down hard on us to, do it properly. But what I'm, saying here tonight, that there's an easier way out, and using Ridge Hill Road makes so much sense. It's safer for everybody, and for the people that, aware of all the floats and the children that are involved, what safer place to be is off the beaten path and having their parents and their kids brought to an area where there's minimal traffic and less action of someone getting hurt by getting run over by a car or
I
whatnot.
think it was there when I was a kid on Ridge Hill Road.
I
Or not Ridge
can't
Hill Road.
remember.
Where was it? It was.
It used to be.
Might have been Capicut.
No, I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I don't remember it being at Carroll, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
25 years ago.
It would definitely significantly impact the police department and its personnel. We've always struggled in the assignments, and by reducing the parade route, I can foresee 4 to 5 officers not needed now, because you're not dealing with the off ramps and the other intersections past that location heading south, like Narrows Road and Copacut Road area. So I can use those resources now north of Ridge Hill Road and along the parade route.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
it does to me as well. I mean, you have a pretty good turnout of people, right? Last year's an indicator of how many people were out there, even in the pouring rain.
Rain was awesome.
It only rained from 10 to 12.
Yep.
As soon as the parade started, right when it ended.
The minute I broke the parking lot entrance with the golf cart and turned onto the road, the rain started coming down, and it was gorgeous. Beautiful day.
So, I mean, it will put. I think we'll have a lot of people, but that's okay, because parades are used to being kind of, next to each other. And I just don't see anything wrong with it. So we would literally just put a hard shut off right at the bottom, basically the off ramp of Ridge Hill, and say from that point forward. Yeah.
Correct. So, off the cuff, there would be officers that are, in place right at Ridge Hill Road and the highway. At some point in time, when the roadway does shut down for the parade, we have to redirect the traffic, everybody that's coming off the ramps southbound towards like Stop and Shop for that brief amount of time for the parade. Usually it's wrapped up 45 minutes to an hour. Once that's done, we just open it up and carry on with the rest of the day like we usually do.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see an issue with that. It makes sense.
On behalf of the Parade and Fireworks Committee, I know they're also on board with that as well. Again, we have a lot of veteran organizations and things like that enjoy the shorter walk. And as a guy that uses prosthetics, I enjoy the shorter walk myself. So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we'll vote on that, right?
Yeah.
So I'll entertain a motion to have the parade route, end at or begin at Ridge Hill Road.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So then agenda item 7, is that no longer necessary?
Can we amend it? When I asked for the amendment would be last year, I could have sworn it was on here earlier, but it must have been another thing. So last year we decided to, as far as the fireworks night, right? We authorized the Parade and Fireworks Committee to take control of Hathaway Park and work directly with the police. That way, in case anything happens, the police know who to contact. Last year we voted on that. Chief, you could add to that.
Sure. Over the past years, we've encountered issues that have taken place, like any type of large event. And when these issues happen with the property, we're looking for the proper direction and authority of the property that's in place. What we're talking about is Hathaway Park. So if you can imagine an incident takes place, we'd be trying to contact you, the Board of Selectmen, for some type of direction and resolution of the property. But for the evening of the fireworks, it would benefit at least the police department if you can give the authority to the Parade and Fireworks Committee that when there are issues on the property that need tending to, we can get direction directly from them versus bothering you folks. And again, it's only for that one evening night, and it would resolve a lot of issues that we can deal with on a direct basis with the Parade and Fireworks Committee.
Yeah.
I think this should be on another agenda.
Yeah, we'll get that ready.
Okay.
Put on the next
I just wanted to make sure it was as an amendment. Thank you.
It might be just too different to amend the existing.
No, that's fine. I just I could have sworn it was on there, but it could have been my notes. It was our meeting minutes. That's where it was. So
All right.
thank you.
So I think we're good there. Chief, appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, so agenda item 8, this is discussion vote whether to approve an extension of the agreement between the town of Freetown and Borgesboro Trucking, Inc. for curbside trash and recycling collection services through 6/30/2027.
So a little bit of history, you know that the trash contract went out for bid probably 3 or 4 years ago, and then the bid was awarded to Borges Brothers.
Yes.
Part of the history was there were so many complaints when we had Republic, and so the town voted to go with Borges. Trash is excluded from procurement, so it doesn't have to go out to bid. We've had such a great relationship with Borges that we asked them to give us their prices for the next 3 years. They came in a little bit higher than this. I said, hey, is there any wiggle room? Can you get these down a little bit lower? And they did. They came down. I think right now we're paying $508,000. So you can see the increases. So this vote is just to determine that we're going to move forward with a another 3-year contract with Borges. I'll draft the contract, but I just wanted to run it by the board because it will be expiring at the end of the year.
Makes sense to me. Does anyone have any?
One of the best decisions we ever made as a town.
Yeah.
So, when we have in here, we also have the blessing of our Board of Health agent talking about, how good they've been.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about Borges Brothers and how they've treated this town. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
100% on board with this.
Full disclosure, before getting to this position and really looking at town, I really didn't know who Borges Brothers were other than seeing their trucks and everybody else. But to your point, and piggybacking off of you're right. They do so much for the town that they've done an admirable job in the time that I've known them. So good job to them.
And above and beyond that.
Above and beyond, absolutely.
Yeah. And so are we locked in with Crapo Hill? I mean, going forward too, I know that's.
Crapo Hill, I believe we got 2-year contract
Yeah,
with
we
them.
did.
So that's going to expire, and then I don't know where we're going to go, right? That's something that we keep continuously working
That's a
on.
problem. That's going to be a problem.
It's 47 acres near the Stop and Shop.
So
And I guess just so everyone understands what we're talking about is Borges Brothers collecting the trash, but where we bring the trash
Right.
is two different things, right? So Crapo Hill is where we're currently bringing our trash, and Crapo Hill is a landfill. Landfills only have so much space and can only take trash for so long. So, and they're not in a hurry to create new landfills in towns or in the state at all. So we've talked a lot about what it means to us down the road. It's great. We have Borges Brothers picking up all the trash. If they don't have anywhere to take it, we're screwed. So,
Yeah.
so we've talked about different alternatives. So that's what's being referred to. So,
Yeah. And there's like some other facilities that are like zero waste facilities where they French burn the trash, create energy out of it, but it's way more expensive per ton for those kind of facilities. So it's just we keep hearing Crapo Hill is going to be tapped out, closing soon. So that's just something we don't have much control over. It's just something we need to
Plan for down the road.
what we've also talked about, and I don't want to drag this on, but it's, if it comes to the point where, say, that landfill closes and now we have New Bedford, Dartmouth, and Freetown, just to name a few towns, cities that are putting their trash there, what does that mean to people trying to go to these facilities, right? They're not going to be as quick to take Freetown on that, generates 10% of the trash as New Bedford. They can get more dollars out of New Bedford. So we don't really want to be on the backside of it. So it's
Yeah.
like, how do we be proactive?
Right.
That's,
All right.
this is something completely separate.
Yeah, we're not going to solve that problem. All right. So
I have a
I'm
question.
going to have a motion here. Sorry, was that?
Sorry to interrupt. I have a question. So I know you said trash, was that excluded from contracts? Because I know you said they did a contract 3 years ago, but then you said they were
It's
excluded.
excluded from procurement, meaning I don't have to put it out to bid
Okay.
and get bids, which it was bid last time, and there was higher bidders, lower bidders, but Borges was the best suited for the town. So it's excluded. We don't have to do procurement. Pretty much everything else we have to do, put out to bid, and we have to take either the lowest bidder or the best value for the town. Just depends on how we bid it.
Okay.
It's exempt from procurement.
Since we're exempt from procurement, so you didn't put it out to bid, obviously, because
This
we're
hasn't
already
gone
in
out to
good
bid,
hands
no.
with Borges Trash. So who was the other places that you put out to bid? Like, who was the other people that put
It
bids in?
hasn't gone out to bid at this point, right? So
3 years ago. I'm just out of
Republic.
I can't remember. I know
curiosity.
Republic was one. I don't remember the other company. The other company was quite a bit more money, but I can't remember the name of it, but I can get it for you.
Yeah,
And it
if you
was
don't mind.
overwhelmingly passed at town meeting that the town residents wanted to switch over to Borges away from it, knowing even though that the trash was going to be slightly more expensive. So-
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not saying anything bad
No, I
about
know,
them,
I'm-
that we
I'm
shouldn't have them. I just curiosity. All right.
I can't. I don't remember because, like I said, I wasn't even here then. But I can pull that information.
Yeah.
Oh, you have it.
It's the bid minutes.
And just to clarify, for those watching at home, this has nothing to do with the town trash bags. This is just the pickup from your receptacle, from your house to Crapo Lane. I don't want to spelling check on that. Crapo Hill. Maybe it's my New England accent. It kind of sounds like Crapo versus Crapo, but I digress.
So Luann was able to pull up the three that actually bid was Borges, Republic, and Easy Disposal.
Republic and Easy Disposal.
Easy the letter E and the letter Z Disposal.
Could I see what their bid was? Like,
We can get it for you. Yeah.
Okay.
I think what was the bid was 800,000.
Just closed it. Hold on. Bid opening minutes. One moment, please. There was two different options.
Yeah. Just.
This is the automated, this is the traditional. So that's
Yeah.
the one that you want.
Republic was roughly 2.3. Borges was 2.4 million, and Easy was 3.155.
okay. Thank you. Do you mind just emailing that to me?
I'm sorry?
Do you mind just emailing that to me?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the extension of the agreement between the town of Freetown and Borges Brothers Trucking Inc. for curbside trash and recycling collection services through 6/30/2027.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, we have a donation. So it's from Coparts for $750. So, well, thank you, Coparts. Appreciate that. It's going to be a great event. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the donation in the sum of $750 from Copart of Connecticut to support Earth Day event.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item 10, this is vote whether to approve the contract between the town of Freetown and Greenman Pedersen Inc., GPI, for a paving program of Chipaway Road and several side streets in the town of Freetown.
It's just a contract to bid the job
Yeah.
for the highway department.
Yeah. All right, any questions or concerns?
No.
Looks good.
All right, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract between the town of Freetown and GPI for paving program of Chipaway Road and several side streets in the town of Freetown.
Motion made.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have agenda item 11. This is whether or not to approve the sign change order for Kelly Drive and Quantapug Road for road improvements.
I think it was for a
she's
project that was
going
already
down.
done that had some change orders on it.
Yeah, and then ended up being cheaper.
It's actually less money.
It's what I was shocked by that.
I read it twice. I was like, less? When is it
You and me
less?
both.
So yeah, so this original contract price is $480,000, and it's been reduced by about $40,000 or almost $41,000. So that is wonderful. Yeah. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the sign change order for Kelly Drive and Quantapug Road for roadway improvements.
Motion made.
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, agenda item 12, discussion and vote on laying out GM Way. This is us pretty much approving.
This is just, it just has to be this language specifically. So when it goes to town meeting, the selectmen have to lay out
Yeah.
GMA and then it'll go to town meeting warrant, but sort of a formality and procedure. You've already looked at this and.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
Any questions or concerns?
No.
All right. So with that, I'll entertain, I guess, so it's, what's the motion here? What's the,
This is the motion would be to lay out GM Way.
as presented?
Yep.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to lay out GM Way as presented.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so this one's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So this is discussion to vote whether to approve the proposal for infrared roof moisture and roof conditions evaluation for the Freetown Elementary School. And this is, it looks like it's a drone with an infrared camera.
Yeah, this is, I think I told you, I brought to the board's attention about the Freetown Elementary School roof getting near its end of life. And one of the recommendations came when we had the feasibility study looked at was that we should do this just to make sure it's not leaking in areas, because obviously if it's leaking in areas and we don't address it, it's going to cause moisture in the insulation and stuff to sit there. So for the $5,750 to do this, myself and Carl, the building commissioner, and Greg Goodwin of the school thought it would make sense just to make sure we don't see any active leaking. We're not aware of anything, but it's a big roof, and this is sort of one of the process to avoid, bigger costs.
All right, and so, yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's short money to make sure that we save ourselves some money.
Yeah, we're doing it right. That's what it'll give us. It'll tell us.
And they're going to provide a bunch of, photographs of it, infrared images of the identified wet areas, and the drawing. So that's cool.
Yeah, they're going to take some of the rubber roofing off, I think, and measure it and see how thick it is, see how brittle it is, to see how long, we're looking at, I think we have maybe 3 to 5 years left on the roof. So we're actually trying to work on, starting to put some money aside to plan for the $3 million expense of replacing the roof, which we can do in phases. So we could do like a third, and a third of the roof. So something that you'll be hearing more about as we move forward in planning how to replace that roof. But this information will all help us determine the best way to do that.
And if you're doing it in stages, which stage, if there's an area that seems to be more problematic, then we can start with that stage. So yeah, that's a good point.
All right. So any questions or concerns? You guys good?
Good.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposal for infrared roof moisture and roof condition evaluation for the Freetown Elementary School.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Agenda item 14. Vote on whether to ratify the Board of Selectmen Chairman's letter of support for request for funding from Congressman Auchincloss for combined COA library building.
I'm all for it. Let's do it.
This was just a grant that Victoria was submitting to Congressman Auchincloss to help with engineering and planning fees related to the new building. And she needed a letter of support. So this is just to ratify that letter that went off with that application.
Awesome. Any questions or concerns?
No.
All right, great. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to ratify the Board of Selectmen's Chairman's letter of support for request for funding from Congressman Auchincloss for combined COA library building.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on, we have ambulance abatements and write-offs. So $90,346.90. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ambulance abatements and write-offs for February 2024 in the amount of $90,346.90.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, agenda item 16. This is discussion of vote whether to accept a donation from Excel Recycling LLC in the amount of $11,813.55. This is just the remaining amount.
Yeah, I should reach out to town council to see if we actually need to accept it, but I would because it's our procedure, because it's part of the settlement, not necessarily a donation, but
It
we
is.
have it on there to accept it.
Yeah,
as
and
a
it's going to the general fund, right? That's how it has to.
It doesn't go to the general fund. It goes to a donation account basically
Okay.
that sits there that can be used. And last time we did use it to buy a trailer for the fire department.
That's right.
Yeah, so this is the $25,000 less the cost of the trailer.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Any questions or concerns?
Nope.
All right. So that I'll entertain a motion to accept the donation from Excel Recycling LLC in the amount of $11,813.55.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item 17. This is whether or not to approve the agreement between the town of Freetown and Sing, Explore, Create LLC for a one-day music therapy program at the Council on Aging. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Anyone have a problem with music therapy?
No.
Senior citizens? No? Okay. All right, that's great. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement between the town of Freetown and Sing, Explore, Create LLC for one-day music therapy program. Council on Aging.
Motion made.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I will kick it over to personnel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. Item agenda number 18, discussion and vote whether to approve the appointment of Gary Sylvia as truck driver effective 3/26/2024 through 6/30/2024. So
Our Gary Sullivan?
we all thought the same thing, but not our Gary Sylvia, not the former police fire chief, different guy. But he did great interviews, had all the things that the highway department was looking for. So great selection. Seems like a great guy. So.
Awesome.
All right. I entertain the motion to approve the appointment of Gary Sylvia as truck driver effective 3/26/2024 through 6/30/2024.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right.
That's some big shoes to fill.
That's right. Item agenda 19, discussion and vote on fiscal 2025 health insurance rates, our favorite subject. So like everybody else, insurance rates have gone up this year. This year's rates went up around 5%, 4.98 for Blue Care Elect Preferred. That's both family and individual. Network Blue came in at 4.98. And surprisingly, Delta Blue Freedom came at a 0% increase. So, great to have the numbers in front of us so we know what the rates are for coverage for our employees. But at the end of the day, we're limited in what we can and can't negotiate. So this is not bad. I heard as much as 8, 9, 10% other areas. So
the monthly family rates, $3,300.
For the PPO is the monthly rate for PPO was $33.21. Then
Going to 34, right?
yeah.
$34.87.
That's crazy.
We with the PPO we charge the distribution rate's a little bit different. It's a 65-35 on that. With the Network Blue, it's 75-25. The town pays 75%, so that's going up to $27.23 for a family plan and $1,039 for an individual plan. I consistently reiterate the issue that we can't sustain where we're at with the health insurance, that I propose to change it to 70-30 contribution rate or bring in a lesser plan than what we currently have, which has 0 deductible and $15 copays still. And I'll offer that to new employees, so grandfather in our existing employees. And I am sort of talking to the unions about this. You know, they're still not. So we'll see how that works. I'm consistently trying to convince them of how difficult it's going to be to sustain this. But for this year, this is the new rates, and we don't have a choice. So
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb, and continued discussion with the unions and also our retirees as well. That's things that we gotta discuss coming soon. So, but for this discussion, any additional comments, concerns? That's just standard rates. That's the case. I entertain the motion to approve the fiscal 2025 health insurance rates.
Make that motion.
I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr.
All right, thank you. So agenda item number 20, discussion on beach and boat ramp staffing for 2024. The reason why this is brought up is because of we don't have a lot of people. We've been fortunate in the past that we had Luann helping us with this. It's not something that we need to continue to do. We can't rely on Luann to do this. We've talked a lot about the issues that we have there, right? But where our biggest issue at this point is having people there to staff it.
Right.
So I guess, we had talked a little bit about some different ideas, and Luann, you can feel free to jump in at any point, of how do we go about getting staff. And, one of the things we had talked about was, bringing in front of the board and see if anyone has any ideas, because we're posting at places, we're doing things, and we're getting very little.
Well, I think we have one lever to pull.
Yeah.
More money.
More money. Well, that's the thing. Previous discussions and over the years, we weren't getting many people as far as we get interviews, but then they wouldn't accept the job because of the pay. So over the years, we have increased the pay, right? And now I think the discussions again, we've been lucky and fortunate that we had some college students, seniors that went to college, and they would come back for summertime, and that would, they did great, did an amazing job for everybody that's worked on that. So thank you for them. But you're right. We need to, once again, discuss how to get people down there. The state has done a great job cleaning the whole place up. We got a new shed, new gate, and potentially a new ramp going in the near future. But we have to make sure people are out there, right?
I think that maybe, part of the problem is not necessarily getting the staff. We can get the college students, right? Mm-hmm. It's that they still need oversight.
Yeah.
And that still falls on Luann, and it still falls on somebody has to go down there and address the issues when they're either not doing their job or they have questions or they have problems. So my thought, right, I don't know if we just get somebody that's more of like a manager, but they'd have to work a shift there, but then pay them maybe, $24 an hour, $25 an hour, but they're responsible if there's a phone call, if it's not their shift and there's a phone call because whatever's happening, somebody doesn't have any cash or they don't have this or the machine is jammed. That they deal with it, or somebody calls in sick and there's no coverage, then they're going to have to go cover the shift. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know that we could get somebody, because it's every weekend. It's all summer long on the weekends. Mm-hmm. It's when it's the busiest, like Memorial Day weekend and 4th of July weekend is when it's the busiest at the boat ramp, and you need to be there. Mm-hmm. But it is not fair at this point. Luann ends up working 7 days a week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
For the summer.
And it's not just the working, it's to your point, the calling too. Right. So you can think of working as, some people will think of working as physically being at a location, but it's the phone calls that come along with it and everything else. And it's been easy for us because Luann, who she is, to always kind of rely on Luann, but it's not a good long-term solution, right?
No, and it does restrict you. She can't go away for the weekend because she has to be close by in case there's a phone call.
Right.
It's not fair. It's not okay.
She's been such a team player, and she's picked up, but I wouldn't blame you if you just said absolutely not.
I told her I would not want her.
Yeah.
Right? Like, honestly, in all honesty, it's just not fair to work 7 days a week during the summer.
It's not.
We're in like a weird pickle, right? Because it's a state boat ramp, right? But we have to operate can we go to the state for help? We can't, just we can't get anyone to work here. But I'm sure we legally probably have to have it open.
They don't care if you staff it. You can leave it open and not staff it. The issue then becomes it gets so chaotic that it falls on our police department because we have fights and we have drunkenness.
All sorts of fun things happening throughout the night.
What to answer your point, Trevor, was we met with someone from the state, and he told us that every boat ramp except for one had these same issues. As far as whether it be staffing issues or security issues or whatever, right? There's all these different problems, and Freetown is not, it's not unique to Freetown.
I think we should complain though. Like even if they can't do anything about it, just
I mean, he heard us. We complained to him.
Spoke with him recently to ask for suggestions on where can we find staff who would be a good quality person. He did suggest you need, like he said, senior citizens, maybe someone in the senior work-off program for tax credit or something like that. So I did reach out to the Council on Aging to see if they could maybe recommend someone to see if anyone was interested there. We have the lawn signs. The state said we can put lawn signs out that are saying that we're looking for seasonal boat ramp positions, because we do have an posting now in various locations for a manager and the attendant positions. I do have 2 out of the 3 kids from last summer have said that they want to come back. 1 has applied. I have another person applied who just came through this afternoon.
Oh, great.
So
that's awesome.
Good.
those are for attendance, so they're not for the management thing.
We did talk a little bit about that, and I think there is also something to be said about needing, asking a senior who's on senior work off is great on paper, but once again, they're not gonna, I don't know that they're gonna want to be dealing with the boat ramp every single weekend. And it also, there's a lot of issues that are down there, right? So we worry about, you need someone with a certain strength to be able to go and deal with these issues, whether it be the staff or the people trying to use it,
we doubled up staff.
Yeah.
Right.
Just for safety reasons down there. I don't know. I do think if we could get somebody to just oversee, sets the schedule for the staff.
I mean, that's a huge step in the right direction.
And so I don't know what that would take. I think it would take more money. I don't know the other thought, and I don't know, again, anybody in the town hall would want to do it, but to pay a stipend to somebody that would want to take on an extra job in terms of, doing something in addition to what they're already doing at the town hall.
We were able to increase what we charge based on the fact of what we're spending, right?
Yeah, we are.
We could theoretically pay someone more money and increase the fees.
I don't think the state will allow us to increase the fees. We were pretty much one of the most expensive boat ramps already. And he said
I like your idea, though.
we were already pushing the limit at $10 per parking. We do bring about $25,000 in a year of revenue.
Yeah.
Right now it's pretty much break even. We do sustain ourselves, but we also, in that, we brought in police details. I think it cost us $4,000 or $5,000 last summer, and we didn't have very many of them because they're
the year before was really where we had the bigger ones.
Yeah, we had more. So if we had a stronger staff, we wouldn't need maybe the police details at $5,000. So yeah, I think we could afford to pay someone $25 an hour. But there is money in the till if that's been in the revolving account, because it's supposed to, So if we did run over, we'd have a better sense of that by the end of the year where we were at. But right now it kind of breaks even.
And that's what I was really after was, okay, how do we break even with this? I'm not, we have ways of generating money. Right. I don't think that this is something that we should be using as a revenue stream.
No.
But I also think of it as, I don't want it to cost us more. So if we can help control the losses, so to speak.
Yeah.
When's it opening it up? I always forget the dates. When are we planning officially to?
I think we were planning staffing at Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day.
We would have the attendance there Memorial Day weekend, and if we can find the seasonal manager, we'd bring them on a week ahead to train them, because they would be the only one that has the keys to the vault system that's in the
which is what
the kiosk, which ends up being the big problem, because you can't leave that on site,
right?
For security reasons. So whoever that manager has to have those and be able to go when they get a text message that the bill is stuck or whatever.
Yeah, I know last time we discussed maybe even multiple people having shifts, but that goes back to stipends and everything else, and just trying to staff taking someone's weekend away. If anything, Luann, I'd make a motion, say no Luann ever again at the boat ramp.
Maybe two managers, they work alternate weekends, so that they get
some time off.
Just pay them a
And that's something, that's a good point. Maybe, even if it's 4 employees, but 2 of them become.
Yeah.
Like manager level or something, and they work every other week. Oh, they're on call every other weekend, I should say.
Right.
Then that way they can plan accordingly.
Yeah.
That might work.
Yeah, set the rates, one for typical employee, second for manager, and if they do assume the roles, that's just for us a simple payroll thing, right, to pay them extra. But it would solve some of the coverage. But then you still need to get the bodies. So we're now at what, 2, 3? You said, Luann?
2, right?
2.
I have 2 that have actually sent in applications.
Or one that says he was going to, said they were going to apply.
Right.
So
okay. Well,
Do we have a management pay rate that's different than the attendance?
I think we said we were going to do 24 or 25. I think the last one that you had was 24, wasn't it?
I don't know. I just want to
That's what I
ask, do
think.
they need
Yeah,
to vote
that
something?
sounds right.
that
No, we had the pay
Yeah.
rate before.
Okay.
I know we increased it a couple of times to get people to come in. Again, it's one of those positions that your summer, your time, and then your weekends, it's the things that people love to do in the summertime.
It's
And
not tax dollars, right?
Right.
I mean, it's the money that we're collecting from the fees that go into a revolving fund that pays these. So I just want to make sure that taxpayers realize it's not their money. It's
Right.
not taxpayer dollars. Not that we could overrun the budget, but we do have money sitting in a revolving account, so we would know if we ran out over this year that we would know, okay, we have to do something differently next year.
well, maybe we reach out to the Long Pond Association. Maybe they have some folks
I
that.
would say that's what I thought Doug Cameron had said too, that usually those people that live on the pond have a great interest in the pond.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
And
Yeah.
that they would take a real, interest in keeping the order there.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Long Pond Association, yeah, maybe they might
I think
have
that's
somebody retired.
that's a good place, I think, to start. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hurt
Yeah.
to try,
Yeah.
right? Because you do, to your point, you have a lot of passionate people about the pond. So
Yeah. Yeah, start there and then cast our net wider if needed, right? That
We need to get somebody soon.
Right.
Because otherwise, here we are again.
If there's anywhere else that you can think of to put it out, we've sent it to Mass Hire, our website, Facebook.
Like UMass Dartmouth.
I did the handshake that does all the local colleges. I have the lawn signs. Suggestions welcome.
yeah. For those out there listening and watching, if you're interested, let us know.
And this
Maybe we have
conversation
someone-
spawned what she's saying right now is what spawned us putting it on this very agenda was to try and get other people's ideas. And Long Pond Association's
And maybe we would be open to saying, oh, we're going to have a boat ramp manager. Maybe we have 2 of them and you just do every Saturday.
Right. Or
So you're not
every
giving
Sunday.
up the whole weekend.
Yeah, either way, either you alternate the weekends or you do every Saturday and somebody does every Sunday.
Right. You get the text messages when I get them too.
Would it be abuse of Freetown Flash to send out, looking for employees?
Couple it together with like the we just updated
The
all the
holiday
board
will be
and
coming.
yeah, we have like a holiday or the board and
Right.
the board and vacancy
Yeah.
page was updated with what's available, so we can kind of like couple of message together.
Yeah,
with
I
all
mean,
that
I
stuff.
think that makes sense. What do you think? Like just to try to, I think it's if you're like a college kid, like living home, it's a
Oh, great job.
gig. Especially when you're on the water all day. You might deal with some crazy people, but
Yeah. And the way we did it last year and over the years is like you stagger the shifts, right? So there's some overlapping between 2 individuals, either in the morning or in the afternoon, with some overlapping throughout the day, right? So you can help each other out, especially with parking and collecting fees. So there's some pros and cons. One thing I would like to expand on is the veteran program and the senior workout program. Can we add that to the language, or is that something we have to vote on, like a town meeting? I know the language is pretty specific. I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure we're in within compliance with that. Can we add that to the?
Have that already in place. So if
Okay.
they wanted if we could get a veteran that wanted to do that job, they certainly could use their hours towards that.
Perfect.
Or a senior that was
Yeah.
capable of doing it, but we want to be careful for safety reasons.
Oh, sure.
It's not an easy. It's an easy job unless you get those people that are unruly, right? Which has
Right.
happened. We've had incidents down there, so we want to be very careful. And
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because
we do the buddy system, why we've had the 2 staff members down there as opposed to the first year. I think it was just 1 by themselves, but I was just concerned. So we do a lot of overlapping
Right.
So that you have somebody else there, and it works. It's busy. If you've been down there when it's busy,
Oh, it's busy.
They're running around.
Yeah.
You know, it takes the two of them.
And to piggyback off what I believe either Trevor or yourself said is the Long Pond Association they're committed to it. They want to be there. But you also have people living on the pond that don't necessarily want us there either, right? So there's a mix of both sets, right? Great that we're there to kind of helping shutter, like move people along. But then there's people there that go, hey, why are you even here? I live on the pond. I have my water rights. And all we're trying to do is control the chaos in a sense, right? We make sure it doesn't get to the point that people are getting arrested, right? We don't want that, right? And that's what this position is for, is making sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do at the proper time. When you're done for the day, thank you for coming. See you next time. Pretty straightforward.
All right.
Yeah.
I have a question. Just for the folks at home, what is the pay, the hours, and the qualifications?
For the boat ramp?
Yeah.
Well,
We have the job postings on the website, and I know the attendant positions, their hours are like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And like they said, we stagger them. So we'll figure out what they're going to be when we know how many people we have. They're $18 an hour. And then the manager, I think we were saying that we were going to do 22 to 24. And that posting is also up on the town's website.
Okay. And when do you need to find somebody by? Memorial Day?
Within
May
like
1st.
May
Soon as
1st, because
possible.
we really want to get them trained and
As
deployed.
soon as possible, yeah.
Okay. And what is there any qualifications for this? Like, could we reach out to the
Really?
high school kids,
I mean, you have to
seniors?
pass the background check, right? Like, you know, just like,
High school and seniors are good for the attendant position, like college kids.
Yeah.
But we need someone who's a little bit more mature and can deal with the confrontation or whatever may arise.
especially dealing with money as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and they've got to deal with the kiosk, which is
Right.
Can be
it's a bit of a
challenging.
challenge.
Yeah, and we'll train it, and we'll provide, as you know, there's a new shed with, I believe there's air conditioning now, right?
Nope.
No air conditioning yet. I take that back. There's a new shed, new fence. So there's something, you know, to stay in some of the funds we've recouped from the kiosk. It looks better than it used to, right? And it's going to continue looking better, right? And I think the state's looking at improving the ramp in the near future, right?
Pavement of
The pavement,
lot,
yeah.
not the ramp
Paving
itself.
before Memorial Day.
Right. So it should look nicer, right? Which is great for the residents that live nearby. But we just need someone that's responsible enough to handle the duties there. And we'll train them, right? The police will train them. We'll train them. So if you know anybody listening, High Freetown, Lakeville, neighboring communities, let us know. Come on down.
all right. You all set? Right?
Yeah. I mean,
All right. Any,
really.
no old business, right? Town administrator report?
No, I'm going to try to start doing some announcements so I can reiterate things that are happening around the community.
Yep.
You heard Kylie talk about Earth Day on April 20th, but I'm just going to start trying to, hopefully she's going to be putting together a newsletter that's going to go out via email on the Freetown Flash, which will have all the local activities. So I will probably just read from that at the selectmen's meetings while you guys are signing, and I can just kind of tell people what's going on around town, just as an added, bonus. So we try to communicate more information. So just that'll be coming as we get it up and running.
So someone recently saw that we were posted that on meeting. So he asked me if I could make an announcement today. It's Friends of Freetown is also going to be doing a cleanup of the state forest, but it's unfortunately on the same day as our town cleanup. But he did ask me to make that if I could, because he saw that there was this here, and I said, I can announce it.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a lot of specifics, but it's Friends of Freetown, and they're looking for volunteers. They're meeting at the main gate area for the Freetown
Like
State
on
Forest.
Bullock Road or wherever?
Yeah, and they're gonna, trying to do some cleanup within the forest.
Love it.
Awesome.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Sweet.
not to steal your thunder, I saw it, someone brought it to me, so I wanted to bring it up.
I just wanted to start doing that as sort of a routine for the residents to hear some of the stuff going on around town. I'll get more and more information, and you guys can sign while I'm talking, and that way we don't take up more time. But just trying to get in the habit of announcing. We have a lot of great programs. Actually, when you start getting into it, a lot goes on in this town, and the more people that can hear it, the better it will be. You know, more people can utilize the programs that we already have in place.
Yeah, did you guys see the new kayak holders over at Cathaway Park?
Not
It's
yet.
cemented in. Looks like it can hold 6 kayaks right off where the ramp is. So if you're a kayaker, you need a break, pop on in Hathaway Park.
That's awesome.
So
That was funded by a grant as
That's
well
right.
that Victoria was able to get.
All right, so any public
It was with
input?
Open space, I think.
All right.
I don't want to give the wrong person credit.
Good. All right.
awesome.
So we're gonna sign and then we will adjourn. I'm sure we have a good amount of signatures. Not bad today.
Just a couple? Fantastic.
Gorgeous.
Big stretch.
Big stretch, yeah. Moving tables around today, throwing mics around. It's just like I'm at home. It's like, yeah.
There are change. Just you for the aerial of the roof.
It's a cool logo.
It's very cool. Yeah, I like that logo.
You know, I wanted to ask is like, is it going to be a drone? But then you see the picture, like it's going to be a drone.
Definitely.
They're going to use this. No need to ask.
I didn't pay attention to that.
That goes to everybody
Oh, yeah.
else.
I'm losing it.
I'm watching that.
Losing it.
I apologize.
Get to work too. Physical therapy, which is just you.
I forgot how to sign my name.
Oh, took a vacation and you forgot.
I know.
Just me.
And that is your health insurance rates, which is also just you.
I figured everyone was going to ask if it was the same Gabby Sylvia once it popped up. So we asked that same question.
Everybody's asking me that. Gary,
Of
so
course
you're
it
gonna drive a truck?
And he's always been open to do just about
Yeah.
anything, right? So
Well,
it
it's
wouldn't
funny is-
surprise me with him.
Ah, he's retired.
What's funny is I was at Junior's getting pumping gas, and there he is. I was like, "Hey, are you the one that applied for the job?" He's like, "I'm retired."
All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion made.
Second.
So make
All in
sure-
favor? Aye. Aye.